Welcome everybody to Usada, Bali. Thank you all for coming and supporting our Ayurvedic Cafe, Indo-Vedic Cafe, and Balinese and Indonesian culture. Tonight we have a very special event from our friend and filmmaker Joo Peter, who just returned from Vanuatu in the South Pacific, staying with the traditional villages. He's supported by Soichi Gallery, our friends that come from Denpasar, who are now collaborating with Usada with the art and cultural offerings. This will probably be Joe's last talk here because he's got to go back to work. He's been on a sabbatical from teaching for a year, so I'm honored to have him here. He's a friend and he's helped support the arts and the culture of Indonesia for many years. His film Mentawai, Souls of the Forest, just won an award at that, what is that famous film festival in France? Cannes? Anyway, without further ado, I pass it to Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot and welcome tonight to Cosmos of Archipelago. I've been traveling Southeast Asia now for 20 years, 25 years, exploring traditional culture and indigenous culture. About 8 years ago I started also doing film. Before I was mainly photographer and storyteller. 8 years ago I started with film, first exploring indigenous culture with short films, and then my first feature film, Mentawai, Souls of the Forest, which I also have shown here. And Scott invited me to do another talk, but my new films are still in the making. So we thought we just talk about that, about the process of filmmaking and about my experiences traveling all over the archipelago from Sumatra to South Pacific. This is also one huge language family. It's the Austronesian language family, also known as Malayo-Polynesian language family, which reaches from Madagascar to Eastern Island. It's a very huge area that this language family spreads, and that's basically also the idea of Cosmos of Archipelago. I first show how I started exploring Indonesian archipelago by film. The first short film, one moment. So, the first short film I show was shot in Sumba at the Pasola Festival. Ja, Passola, Battle on Holy Ground, der Begriff Passola kommt aus dem Sanskrit und bedeutet Speer. Da kommt also der Begriff des Bezug zu dem Speer-Wettkampf auf Pferden. Ja, oh shit, sorry.
Language.
Passola. Sorry. So Passola is a Sanskrit word meaning spear, like the battle on horses with spear. And that's so fascinating. Sanskrit word coming to Sumba, all these influences interwoven in the archipelago. That's the fascinating traveling the archipelago, to discover all these connections, the deeper roots, how the cultures are interwoven. And I also met somebody from Sulawesi who discovered similarities and familiar traditions in Sumba. So Flores, Sulawesi were another places where I was traveling and making photo reportages. The second film, one moment. The second film is the trailer to the Mentawai project. Mentawai is a small archipelago south of Sumatra, with the indigenous culture still hunting with bow and arrow. And I was invited by the Indigenous Foundation there. Sound missing? Oh, sorry. Seems to be the sound missing, so I just comment it. There's also the subtitles with text. Aman Lau Lau, one of the Sikh-Ray, the shamans there, is talking about how in the past, 40 years ago, the culture was heavily oppressed. Houses have been burned down, and by force the hair was cut, they had to cover their tattoo, there was resettlements by force, so back in the past, traditional culture was heavily
Mentawai.
Somebody took it. Okay. Doesn't matter.
Al-Maslim Islam.
Sorry. Some doesn't. Yeah. So the tradition was heavily oppressed, and but nevertheless there was a very powerful grassroots movement fighting for preservation of the culture, protection of the indigenous culture, and it was successful. And that's the story of the film. Until today, I'm very proud of all these activists in Mentawai. And but it also shows, if you continue to travel, you also face more and more the social challenges and questions and political questions. And that's an important part of filmmaking also. My next film, which I was shooting last October, which still is in the making, I was shooting with sea nomads in Borneo, Malaysian part of Borneo. And there it's not 40 years ago that the houses are burned down, there it's happening today. And that's also something, a story to be told. I was shooting in October. September I will start editing. I just did today a very short teaser trailer for you. It's just a draft, a sketch. I hope it works to give an introduction in this new project. Yeah, it is fascinating with this large Austronesian language family, and it all started 4,000 or 5,000 years ago from Taiwan, Philippines, and then the culture spread all over the Archipelago. Of course, there were earlier waves of human settlements, like Papua, for example, 50,000 years ago. But this Austronesian language family spreading was 5,000 years ago, starting from Taiwan and Philippines, all over to Polynesia, Easter Islands, New Zealand, Madagascar, Indonesia, and so on. And just where I've been right now with the Bachao Laut sea nomad in Borneo, that is still very close to the original. very close to the origin of the spread of this large archipelago culture. And these people we just have seen are one of the oldest roots of all this archipelago culture. And the crazy thing is, these are the most oppressed today. The oldest culture is the most oppressed. So they don't even get documents. They don't get citizenship nor passports. They really have to fight for it. They are traveling all over from Borneo, northeast Borneo to Philippines, Sulawesi, in this triangle, sea triangle. This is in the Marine National Park, their settlement. They settle here because they have graveyards of the ancestors here. Still very strong ancestors belief, animism. They are also Muslim, otherwise they would be even more oppressed. I was shooting this in October, last October, November, and in June, when I was in Vanuatu, Pacific Ocean Island, I heard the news that just in June this year, all this village was demolished by the police, by the authorities. Yeah. Do you understand me good enough? Does it work without a microphone?
Yeah, it sounds okay.
I think so. It's more easy for me. So this people is very strong culture, but very fragile at the same time. Strong in the sense that they are able to continue this life since many centuries. Fragile in the sense it's a culture in our money world considerably comparatively poor. Always in clash with the authorities. This woman is weaving tebo, the mats. It's one of the few sources of income to sell the mats. And he was telling us about the ancestor belief, the graveyards, and how he is communicating with the ancestors on a daily basis. Spiritual communication with the spirits on a daily basis. Below here, the building, that's a school. And it's not built by the government. It was built by activists, mainly by artists, who makes a living with cultivating wheat here in the sea area. And so the only people who try to support the Bacalaut, the stateless people, are activists, NGOs, and artists. This is Patrick Khalid. Makes a living with the seaweed cultivation, but he's also heavily in the arts. He's a director, theater choreographer. He also built a school, and all his passion is for preserving the traditional culture. He's designing for big theater performances about the legends of the old Bacalaut culture, designing the stage, the costumes. The traditional dance culture is also part of his performances. And every year there's a large festival, Lepat, the traditional boats of this area, Bacalaut boats. Malaysian state somehow tries to connect with this old heritage, while the sea nomads themselves, the original sea nomads, are oppressed. they nevertheless somehow try to connect to the cultural heritage, also for touristic reasons. So when Patrick Khalid was co-organizing the festival many times, deciding the shows for it, presentations. But he also built the school in remote places like the sea nomad village we just have seen. Here he is teaching in this school to the bachelor kids. Pretty smart kids among these families. Like he is very gifted in drawing. But it was very shocking to hear that especially this village was destroyed in June. There are other communities, other large communities. This one has grown over the last 60 years. It started very small, like the first village we have seen. And now it's 10,000 people living there. And it's like a small republic. They have a special legal status in between. They are not fully accepted as Malaysian citizens, but they are somehow have a special legal status, struggling for full acceptance. And it's a city on the sea. With shops and everything, but still a lot of sea life. Their families living entirely on boats are just very few nowadays. Most of them have still houses now. They are great carpenters, building the boats as autodidacts. And in this bigger Bachelot village, city also emerged a grassroots movement with alternative schools for the stateless kids. And this movement is very strong. It's in different cities in Sabah, originated from the university students and artists in the capital of the state, Kinabalu. They are very courageous and they really fight for the rights of the stateless sea nomads. They built a school and now even an alternative university for stateless kids. This is like one of the schools looks like in the village. This is one of the teachers, and he holds one of the artworks of a famous local art group, Bangkok Sula, which heavily supports these grassroots movements. Education is freedom. This is the slogan of this movement. It's a long-term political fight, but it's so fascinating. The artists are a main force. This is something also important for tonight because I invited Dibal Rano, a wonderful filmmaker colleague, Bali's filmmaker, who also has a great passion to preserve traditional culture in a different way, not so much as a documentary filmmaker, but with very powerful, poetic, visual films, music films, and other artistic films. He also has roots in theater, just like Patrick Khalid. Me, myself, also have roots in theater. I was working 12 years in theater. So this is so fascinating that the artists are such a driving force to preserve culture and also support the minorities. Punk Rock Sulab, these artists, activists do collective artwork, working together on very large wood prints. This is also one of the activists, co-founder of the school, alternative school, Borneo Compound. So they do a lot of international publicity also for their cause. Some of the students have been arrested because they didn't have documents as stateless people. Like they have been in jail for 1 or 2 weeks until they were released again. There was a strong solidarity movement in the alternative school. And this is the main goal, end statelessness. Here. And this is my first chapter, introducing my work. And now I want to give the stage for Diba Rano with a very fascinating different perspective on archipelago culture. Thanks a lot.
My name is Dibal. Sorry, my English is not good. Maybe I want to help my friends translate. I speak bahasa. Yeah.
Bisa dengar, maaf ya.
Yeah. My name's dengan tema Cosmos of Archipelago. Mungkin perkenalkan, nama saya Dibal Rano. Saya dari Singaraja, saya sebagai filmmaker dan artistic director atau creative director, di mana saya selalu membuat karya-karya art ya, gitu, mungkin secara visual.
This is the Balrano and he's originally from
Dibal is from Singaraja, and he is an artistic director and filmmaker, and he tends to make a lot of films that are raising themes of culture and Nusantara, so similar with Joo and raising traditional roots.
Oke, dengan tema Archipelago, mungkin saya juga menggambarkan, saya sempat buat karya tentang di Tambora, yaitu di NTB tepatnya, Tenggara Barat. Di Gunung Tambora adalah mengenang 200 tahun lalu meletus, dan itu sangat dahsyat. Seluruh dunia hitam pada saat itu. Dengan cara mengenang 200 tahun itu, saya mencoba membuat visual, di mana visual itu saya menggambarkan wajah-wajah manusia yang ada di Tambora dalam bentuk yang sangat ringan. Kalau kita melihat masa lalu 200 tahun meletusnya Tambora, tapi saya melihat seorang nelayan sangat gembira ketika istrinya menjemput suaminya, dan itu saya melihat dari smile-nya. Akhirnya saya mencoba memotret senyuman-senyuman itu, dan akhirnya saya dari tetangga-tetangga sampai akhirnya saya terus berjalan selama 2 minggu sampai ke 5 desa, dan saya mengumpulkan 1.200 wajah dan menjadi karya ini.
Alright, I'm just going to tell my own story. So, Dibal as a visual artist, he, with this theme of Nusantara and with the archipelago, he wanted to share the story of an artwork that he started in 2015, the first time he went to Tambora. and that's in West Nusa Tenggara. And there, when the mountain erupted, there was a big natural disaster there, and that was the first time he spent time there documenting this situation. And he got to know the people by, and in the end I think it was 1,200 portraits. And I don't know that he intended, in 5 villages. I don't know that he actually intended to specifically capture smiles at the time, but that's what it became, was that there was a lot of reflection. I'm going to elaborate here. There was a lot of reflection that he felt and he experienced through the different kind of smiles, and how amazing it was that during this difficult time, that some people were really very open and giving him comforting smiles. So that was in Tambora.
Oke, dari Tambora saya mencoba masuk ke beberapa visual yang pernah saya kerjakan. Saya sering juga membuat performing art, kemudian dengan eksplorasi visual, dengan mapping, bagaimana visual itu berkolaborasi. Terus kemudian saya juga sempat membuat
So from Tambora, he also has made some visual artworks that
manusia kontemporer.
about contemporary human beings. And this is more of a contemporary piece, but it brings wayang and the traditional, still, even as contemporary as Deval's art works are, they always go back to traditional heritage. He relates very much to this MYK principle, and this was what it was platform for. Sorry, Phil.
Oke, dan ini ada sedikit film yang juga bagaimana saya menceritakan tentang Majapahit. Jadi ada perjalanan dari seorang Purohita atau ketika di masanya Hayam Wuruk, yaitu ada seorang yang namanya Dang yang Ngerante dari Daha, Majapahit, Pasuruan, Belambangan sampai ke Perancak, sampai ke Bali dan di Melanting, sehingga saya mencoba memisahkan cerita true story atau tentang sejarah masa lalu di abad ke-15 pada saat itu menjadi sebuah art film.
So this film titled Wong Gamang is actually the story from the Majapahit period. And it centers the story of Sangyang Nirata, who made the journey from Java to Bali, and that documents that story through a very artistic interpretation.
Berdasarkan dari lontar Wijen Takwa, dan sempat saya membuat buku fotografi tentang perjalanan beliau, di mana beliau membuat pura-pura di seluruh pinggir Pulau Bali, di pinggir laut. Itu sebenarnya membentengi ketika pengaruhnya Islam masuk pada saat masa transisi Hindu ke Islam, sehingga itulah sejarah.
So there is something very interesting that he's a keen studier of history, ancient history as well, and through Lontar text. This is the primary reference for his films, and something that is remarkable with the character of Sangyang Nirata is that he built temples around the periphery, the parameters of Bali, and this is very much like a fortress, like a defense during a time when Islam and certain other forces were coming in. So yeah, that's.
Nah, pada saat itu perjalanan beliau punya seorang putri yang namanya Ijai Swabago, yang saat ini menjadi pura Melanting yang ada di Bali Utara. Jadi banyak semua orang mau bisnis apapun pasti akan ke Melanting untuk kemakmuran, untuk mendapatkan rezeki. Sebenarnya itu ada ceritanya. Nah, cerita itu saya coba menggambarkan dengan judul Wong Gamang. Apa itu Wong Gamang? Sebenarnya adalah pasukan daripada Dewi Melanting, yaitu sin unseen apa ya yang tidak terlihat.
So, Diane United had a daughter, and just in the simple terms is that she is who is at the Pura Melanting up north. And I don't know how much you know about the Devis, but Dewi Melanting is that of good fortune. So, in being a port for trade, this makes complete sense, because when you have to come across and everybody who is going to want good luck for business, that's how the temple is now known. In fact, if you go to any market today in Bali, the blingy is Melanting. So,
Ini foto-foto behind the scene.
behind the scenes.
Saya explore di ruang publik di pasar, di mana pasar adalah tempat yang ramai. Jadi karena Dewi Melanting adalah Dewi Kemakmuran, tidak lepas dari pasar ya. Karena pasar adalah pusat rezeki. Oke, sekilas.
Sebab itu aku bisa datang dengan bebas, dapat juga pergi semauku. Aku dapat meraihmu, juga semurka-murkanya yang ku mau. Kalau tema dari Archipelago buat saya banyak nilai-nilai histori. Saya suka mengangkat mitologi yang ada di Nusantara. Memang dari abad ke-8 sampai ke-15 itu banyak kisah-kisah yang bisa kita angkat.
From the theme of Archipelago, it ties in with how much Deval likes to raise the history and the mythology of the islands. And
ya, ini beberapa film-film yang saya buat. Kemudian ya beberapa visual, dan saya tidak lepas karena saya selalu bermain dengan artistik, bagaimana saya menggambarkan kisah-kisah mitologi itu dengan art performance, kemudian dengan kostum, dengan nilai-nilai akar yang kuat tradisi budaya. Jadi setiap daerah saya menimbulkan misalnya dari Dayak, dari Bali, ketika dari manapun setiap daerah mempunyai karakter. Ini juga dari Sriwijaya, kemudian lebih ke Indonesia. Dan ini Warna Dwipa adalah saya mengisahkan cerita tentang bagaimana perjalanan Sriwijaya di masa-masa ke-abad 8. Perjalanannya Icing, di sini adalah Candi Muara Jambi, di mana ini adalah university terbesar di Asia pada saat itu. Icing menyebarkan ajaran agama Buddha.
what was the name of the university?
Muara Jambi. Candi Muara Jambi.
Candi Muara Jambi. So that is the largest university
The biggest. Terbesar di Asia pada
in
saat
Asia at that time,
di abad ke-8.
in the 8th century.
Sriwijaya namanya.
yang artinya kemenangan gemilang. Sebuah kerajaan yang hidup dalam cahaya keemasan, suara bintang. Seperti benang emas ini, seperti itulah kemuliaan yang menyinarinya sampai kini. Dari benang emas, kain-kain ditenun menjadi songket sebagai pusaka yang tersebar di banyak wilayah. Sejumput kain dikaitkan seperti hidup yang saling membutuhkan. Juga benang emas yang berkilauan menjadi cermin kejayaan. Memaknai keabadian, kesuburan, kekuatan, hingga kedermawanan Tuhan dalam ragam motif yang diciptakan. Bersanding di antara warisan bangsa, menjadi kebanggaan dari masa ke masa.
Inilah Usada Swarna
Dia menjaga kehidupan.
Dari Tambora kemudian ke Sumatra dan sekarang saya coba ke Banda Merah.
We're going to Banda Neira.
Di mana pada saat itu di masa COVID saya diundang diajak ke sana dan saya mencoba berkolaborasi dengan penduduk di sana untuk membuat sesuatu. Jadi saya membuat film bersama penduduk di sana langsung spontan.
He was invited to go there during COVID to collaborate to make a film with the community there at the time, quite spontaneously.
Suburlah dia putana, suburlah dia jiwa, dia bangsa, dia rakyat semuanya. Sadarlah halinya, sadarlah buninya, Bali Indonesia. Indonesia tanah bersinar, tanah yang kita sayangi, mari kita berjanji, Indonesia Bali. Indonesia tanah yang suci, atau tanah yang sakti, di sana kita berdiri, merdeka mama yang sejati.
Ya. Banda Merah adalah pusat tempatnya rempah pada saat itu di zaman pada saat itu Portugis, Joo Peter ada di sana. Jadi banyak kisah-kisah yang sangat menarik untuk dikisahkan bagaimana Belanda dengan Portugis memperebutkan. Ada Pulau Run, itu satu pulau kecil yang diperebutkan oleh Belanda dan Portugis sampai akhirnya kisah dari pulau yang paling kecil ini.
So Banda Neira was central for herbs and spices, so it became very much a point of, how you call it, a point of conflict for everyone trying to win this island between the Portuguese and the Dutch. This is something very interesting about that history that not a lot of people know. And something, what was it, like New York was one of the things that...
Ya, ditukar akhirnya dan sekarang tukeran itu menjadi kota terbesar yaitu New York. Bayangkan pulau kecil yang di Indonesia ini dulunya ditukar sama New York.
Yeah, so the Banda Neira was actually exchanged for New York. It's part of the history, it's quite fascinating.
Dan ini saya coba mengisahkan tentang topeng panji dari Borobudur hingga sampai ke Kamboja di Angkor Wat.
This tells the story of the Banshee mast from Borobudur to Angkor Wat. Yeah?
Yes.
Hanya Sumatra. Kami segera sadar. Kami mengemban sebuah takdir panjang kedua topeng.
Ini adalah film 1,5 jam kolaborasi antara Kamboja dengan Indonesia. Dari program UNESCO kita buat dengan seniman di sana dengan membuat film tema tentang Panji yang sampai di sana karena memang ada hubungan erat antara Kamboja dengan Borobudur pada saat itu dengan kita tim antropolog juga.
So that was the UNICEF film, UNESCO film that between Cambodia collaboration with Borobudur, because at the time there were strong ties between Angkor Wat in Cambodia and Borobudur.
Ya, film ini fiksi tetapi kita kembangkan dari histori-histori yang ada. Terima kasih, kita lanjutkan lagi dengan Joo.
Yeah, powerful film visions by Dival. We were exploring now mainly the Malaya-Indonesian archipelago area. The Austronesian language family is also called the Malayo-Polynesian language family, and so we didn't explore the Polynesian part, the Pacific Ocean. That's where we are heading now next. Now I would like to ask Diane from Papua if she likes to perform a small song from Papua, going east into the archipelago. Do you like to jump on stage? Yes, before I show the slides. You like to? Or maybe you prepare for the end. For the end. It's wonderful to have guests from all over the archipelago. I wish there would be more different islands present tonight, but Papua is really wonderful. So, right. So I was really curious to explore this eastern part of the archipelago culture, and I decided to visit Vanuatu. It's part of Melanesia. That's a Greek word root which means black, because Melanesia, Papua, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu. It's a very unique ethnic region with more dark skin, and this culture partly goes back 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 years. but also mixed with the Austronesian language family spreading all over. And I visited Pentecost tribe in the Vanuatu Archipelago, famous for this tower building, land diving. It is called the old ancient kind of bungee jumping. And I was lucky to get right into the origin of this tradition. I happened to bump into the chief of the remote village, which where the tradition started. He was just on the other side of the island where I arrived, and he brought me to this remote eastern coast. And you see the village is really in a steep hill above the sea. There's a lot of rain and fog on these Pacific islands. Nature is very powerful. We also saw in the films of Bali the power of nature, the roots in an animistic culture. All nature is spirited, and there are a lot of relationships and common roots in the archipelago culture, like the banyan tree. This was the chief of the village, Varisus. Vanuatu has 130 languages. So that's a sign how powerful these old cultures are, preserving their old culture and language. Here in South Pentecost Island, it was about 2,500 people preserving the culture. So they are really small tribes with a unique own language. So Varisus, the chief, showed me around his village area. This is how it looks like when you just arrive. There's a huge banyan tree, and that's the man's house on the right side where they drink kava. The village was just hit by a hurricane last October. I think two hurricanes last year. This man's house on the right side was one of the only three buildings survived the hurricane. And all the village was still in the process of rebuilding the houses. This is why boys here carry the material, which is for rebuilding the roofs of the houses. So here we see a house damaged by the hurricane. So we see also this remote Pacific Ocean island is affected by the climate change with more hurricanes and stronger hurricanes. One of the boys carries one piece of the roof already prepared. So fascinating, he walks up the village stairways. These stairways are just rocks. They never ever had the idea to make really straight stairs. They don't care about it. It's just like nature is. They use it like nature is. And the boys even make a game out of it to walk up and down blind these rough rocks. Especially in the rain, it's very slippery. But nevertheless, they come along since centuries. One of the banyan trees, nature is so big and powerful in the Pacific Ocean. And this is also the origin of the ancient bungee jump. These huge trees, and if when there is a hurricane, this is the place to go for rescue, traditionally. Because this space under the banyan tree, under the huge banyan trees, is the safest spot in the heavy storm. And it also inspired the bungee jumper. So here the boys are also working to repair the roofs. They're pretty fascinating, unique appearance also. They used to be hunters, but now it's something like 40 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, they stopped hunting in the forest. The kids still play a little bit with bow and arrow. The women wear these special kind of skirts, mainly, but it's also some Western clothes which arrive. That's in the man's house, Nakamal, called Nakamal, and here's one of the chiefs playing the flute. And you drink kava. Kava is very unique. And what I learned also, this island, small island in the Pacific Ocean, Pentecost is just one small island of Vanuatu archipelago of 80 islands. So in this small island is the origin also of the kava tradition in all Pacific Ocean. And I was reading also the archaeological sources, and it's true that it in fact comes from this island. I visited the neighbor village of the village Alpi. It's the origin of the kava tradition. They told me, the chief told me the old story. It was a love couple, heavily in love, but she was unfortunately dying very young, and he buried her, and out of the grave the very first kava was growing. It was growing out of her womb, out of the vagina was growing the very first kava. And they still have a lot of love stories telling about kava tradition. Very fascinating. And they prepare it fresh each evening. They gather in the Makamal, the men's building, every evening. And every evening they produce the kava fresh. It's a bit like beer. For the effect is a little bit like beer, but you are not getting addicted. And most important, people don't get aggressive. That is why the government of Vanuatu enforces kava drinking and makes alcohol very expensive in comparison, because the effect of alcohol, as they experienced in Papua and other places, is more pushing the violence. So if they really were successful in reducing alcohol consumption to very great effect, and rediscovering the tradition of kava drinking. So here, the chief and I take a cup, and he's wearing a tusk of a half-wild pig, and this is very powerful symbol. That's a symbol of the chief. It takes many, many years breeding your pigs until the tusk is grown. There's a big, big feast and ceremony and dancing and killing of pigs. Many pigs until you are allowed to wear this tusk. And then you are chief and you have very special spiritual power. It's supposed to have very special spiritual power. And you have to separate from the family a bit, cooking your meals on a sacred fire after that. So it's a lot of fascinating traditions, and also the bungee jumping is strongly rooted in all these traditions, especially with fertility rituals and harvest, yams harvest. Also, coming of age is an important aspect of the bungee jumping. So here's the chief under the banyan tree for the interview. Next to the village is this place where they believe the world was created. That's a spot where the old legends and myths, accordingly, the world was created. it's a view from above. The sea is very close, but it's extremely steep going down. So, and the sea is very rough most of the time in the year. So this drive doesn't go so much on fishing. They are more gardening. But once we went down, and the chief is here on the rocks, later on jumps down. He's really very youthful, climbing around the trees and rocks like a youngster. And I also found an old movie from the 70s where, which was shot exactly at this rock in the time when he was a kid, a teenager. So, building the tower for the bungee jumping, you have a wonderful view on the sea. Weather is changing very quickly. It can be sunny in 5 minutes later, raining heavily, fog coming, and 20 minutes later everything is gone again and sunlight comes back. So, mainly young men jump, but also teenager and also even old. Some of the old guys like to jump also. It's quite fascinating. They're supported by dancers, all the village singing and dancing, shouting to empower. It's also a sacred story, but in one of the bungee jumping events, I was the only foreigner at the place, and after the jumps, I asked the group again, could you just repeat one of your songs? One of the dancers, they said, no, it's sacred. We have very specific rules and taboos for it. And then I realized it's really still very original. It's not just for the tourists. They do performances for the tourists, and the tourists are to preserve the culture, but nevertheless, it's deeply rooted in the traditional culture and has its own values and taboos. As mentioned with the fertility rituals, coming of age rituals, yams, harvest rituals, and so on. Circumcision also comes a month later. So very fascinating people. They speak their own language, but also Bislama. Bislama is a kind of pidgin English, and in the main capital also they speak English and French. The chief I met, he was also architect of the tower. And the young man jumping from the highest tower, he was deaf. And so it was very fascinating to see him, to imagine his experience up there on the top, absolutely silence, and then jumping down. And it's so fascinating. I mentioned at the very beginning, the first presentation with Bachao Laut, that the artists are the driving force of activists doing the social work and supporting the indigenous culture. It's so fascinating that Dibal also started a foundation supporting deaf people and the inclusion idea. And it's so fascinating to see this all in the film production and performances and dances. Working out, and so when I saw this guy jumping off, this deaf guy jumping off the tower, I immediately was reminded of Dibal's work also. So you see now, this is already the bouncing back, so it was touching the ground, and then he bounces back, and you see all the tension of the muscles. And they are incredibly in shape because it's a very physical demanding life in the steep mountain hills, the gardening, everyday gardening. They are really incredibly in shape. It reminded me a lot of old Athens and Greek period, the statues, the antique statues, which I have to deal a lot as an art teacher in Germany with. This was the oldest guy jumping also. And a very funny, warm-hearted guy who had really the passion to jump. And he was jumping the second highest position. So all the youngsters are jumping below, and he, the second highest, was the oldest guy jumping. And he also incredibly charisma, and right after the jump, singing and dancing, so very fascinating guy. He comes from a small village heavily in resistance to colonial powers. And that's it, the glimpse for the Pacific Ocean. And now I hand over for the last round of the last presentation.
Saya sangat senang melihat karya-karya Joo yang betul-betul original, memperlihatkan suku-suku yang ada di area Austronesia ya. Itu sangat ya senang.
Very happy watching and looking at the works of Joo.
Dan juga tadi Joo sempat mengatakan bahwa saya sempat membuat dekat dengan teman-teman tuli, di mana ada satu kisah anak didik saya yaitu Salsa namanya, ketika dia ingin masuk sekolah, kuliah tepatnya. Jadi dia masuk di sekolah luar biasa, SLB, dan ketika ingin kuliah, dia terbatas karena dia tuli, sehingga tidak bisa masuk. Saat itu dia bilang ke saya, kenapa semua orang jahat? Kenapa semua orang membedakan? Itu buat saya rasanya terpukul. Sehingga pada saat itulah saya ingin mencoba menyuarakan dalam bentuk film pendek. Kemudian
a little bit of the story of how it started, the inclusivity, why Joo mentioned the hard of hearing. Dibal started a foundation, and it started because he met a young student who wasn't able to enter university because due to her hearing limitation. So every time she applied, she kept getting rejected. And when he met her, she was very, very affected and very depressed, and thought that the whole world was mean. And he was inspired to make a film at the time to tell this story and help with the application towards her university entry. Yeah. So the story is that's how the foundation at Kita Bolek for the hard of hearing for the deaf started, and as a performance and group, they actually the inclusivity is that there are a lot of Kita Bolek performers who are actually deaf. So they are traditional dancers. They are in choreography. They established a whole system in mixed inclusive performers. So Sasha, the story about that young girl, she has graduated top of her class now. So, which is pretty amazing. We were there during the anniversary. And, yeah, she's in fashion and she does amazing. She's a fashion designer. Yeah. I said.
Aku bisa melihat. Aku bisa merasakan. Aku bisa menyentuh. Tapi aku tak bisa mendengar dan berbicara.
Itu semua anak-anak ini. Ya. Oke. Sekarang saya coba. Saya senang melihat dari banyak primitif bahwa Indonesia itu punya 17.000 pulau dengan
Indonesia has 17,000 islands
300 suku.
with 300 tribes.
Sehingga banyak sekali inspirasi karya, makanya saya melihat karya-karya Joo yang sangat original.
Yeah, there is so much to be inspired from, and that's why when he says Joo's works as well, they're so inspiring because of all the tribal influences.
Dan saya mencoba bagaimana membuat sebuah musik movie video
I
dengan
also
spirit Bhinneka Tunggal Ika.
so in a music video even, this actually influences Dipal's work for a music video, how he can represent Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which is unity and diversity.
Dan ini menjadi ya, this is Nusantara Indonesia. Indonesia. Ini tema Betari Sri di mana ya sedikit tentang Betari Sri adalah Dewi kalau di Bali padi.
Tapestry is the goddess, the deity for fertility, but rice, like padi.
Jadi ini teasernya jadi tentang film bagaimana menceritakan tentang Dewi Sri.
So this film is about Dewi Sri.
Oh sorry, this is full version. Oke. Mungkin ini sempat saya buat tentang Lampung.
Sepanjang masa bumi tercipta, diberkatilah tanah yang memiliki kemakmuran semesta, air kehidupan, hembusan udara, tanah yang subur, sinar mentari yang menghidupkan segala makhluk di tanah Lampung. Bagaikan pujian dan doa, di tanah dengan panen melimpah, waktu berhenti di desa Hulu. Nemui Nima Saka Sambayan, harmoni dalam perbedaan.
Okay, maybe the last I want to my showreel ya.
So
Yeah, this is
a recap and show the different works.
Filmmaker
Q&A. Yeah.
Why is it that they're actually tearing down the Bajau villages? Is there any...
Because they're stateless. It's neither Philippines nor Malaysia wants to deal with the social issues caused with the stateless seaports. And they are struggling to be accepted as one of the oldest indigenous cultures in the region. And it's also not, they just want to have the land. It's just like with the Native Americans. Like the huge Bacalao city we have seen, they want to demolish it and build expensive luxury tourist resorts. So all the money making with the villa building and so on and luxury resorts is one of the key driving forces, of course. Yeah, but nevertheless, it's a surprise that still such a issue exists that people simply don't get documents. It's the same with the Penang in the rainforest. So it's not only the sea nomads between different countries, but even in Malaysia, in the rainforest, there's the same issue with nomads in the forest that they can't prove their settlements over centuries because they have the nomadic life. So the government just doesn't issue documents. Yeah?
Just to comment on that question. In 2013, I took a week trip in southern Myanmar. There's an area in the Andaman Sea called the Mergui Archipelago, and it's pretty much uncharted. And the sea gypsies, they call them moking there, and they also have all the root on their face, and they live pretty much freely there because they're, nobody's interested in the land. I remember there was one island where there was some guards. It was owned by one of the Myanmar generals that he had. But like when we took the boat through the archipelago, the Moken were fishing everywhere, and there was villages. Yeah, on certain islands there was villages for the women who were about to give birth and young kids that live on the ocean. Also, now they don't row anymore. So there was machine shops for all the boats to go where they could fix the propeller or the engine if it broke. Like you would go to this one island where you live. Anyway, fascinating people. Yeah, as Joe witnessed. Yeah. I remember, and I have one photo of a guy, I came across him at the end, and he had made a boat out of a tree, like with an axe. Yeah, there was like chips of wood all around them and hollowed out. It looked like a canoe. Yeah, and he had made it just with an axe. Fabulous people. That's all.
Yeah. Where can we see your films? Here, it's still a little bit tricky since I have a new contract with international film distributor, and they want to sell it first for TV stations and streamers before there is a public link. But I made up a video on demand link, which I sent only on personal invitation level, not really officially in public. And this is one of the links I set up where you can find the film, the latest film, Menawai project. But just in case you have any troubles to access it, send me a personal message and I'll send you a direct link. It's based on Vimeo. Vimeo is blocked in Indonesia. You need a VPN. So it's a little bit tricky still to watch the film. So just in case you have problems accessing it, send me a message. You also find me at Joo Peter. Just Google Joo Peter. You will find my main website, and you can contact me. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
And Joo Peter.
Yes. Another question?